Hey, what's going on, everyone? Dan Wanis here with the Daily Fantasy Press. I hope you guys had a better weekend than I did. I just got a little too caught up in the weather, the tee time stacking, and got away from some of the guys that finished well and just happened to be in that Thursday PM wave. What I chose to do was, especially on DraftKings, I shifted my ownership towards the guys in Thursday AM, Friday PM, um, and just limited my exposure to guys Thursday afternoon, Friday morning tee times, which include guys like John Rahm that made it through the weather, and that's something to look at. If it's only 2 days of weather that's going to be affected and there's not a distinct advantage, there's still 2 rounds left in the tournament for guys to make up scoring, and we saw it with even Dustin Johnson. He had the more favorable weather wave, and he barely made the cut. It came down to the last hole in his second round, and he stormed through the weekend to the top of the leaderboards. And big congrats to Brian Harman for winning that, his last 2 holes. That was incredible. For a while, it was looking like DJ and Pat Perez were going to go into playoffs. So yeah, congrats to Brian Harman. And another thing going off of this is on FanDuel, I think it's a great opportunity on weeks like this where rounds 1 and 2 weather was concerning, but rounds 3 and 4 the conditions were much better for scoring. So in that case, you can stack up, throw some darts at scrubs in rounds 1 and 2, try to figure out which weather conditions are most favorable to some of the guys, and roll with them in rounds 1 and 2, and then load up on DJ, Rahm. Guys are going to get through the cut and get their scoring in the more ideal conditions like it was over the weekend. So I wanted to touch on that for you guys just to keep that strategy in mind, because I think FanDuel is great for that, to diversify and maybe take some guys that you wouldn't take on DraftKings, especially because you need your guys to make the cut. Having a guy miss the cut in rounds 1 and 2 is not as penal on FanDuel. So just something for you guys to keep in mind. And we're going to move on now and take a look at the Players' Championship and hope you guys enjoy the content this week. All right, so let's take a look at the Players' Championship. It's played at the TPC Sawgrass in Point Vedra Beach, Florida, just outside of Jacksonville. It's a par 72, and the yardage comes in just under 7,200 yards. Defending champ is Jason Day, and I'm sure you guys know this. The Players is referred to as the quote-unquote fifth major. People have mixed opinions on this, but regardless, it's a very deep field, the deepest field we've seen so far this year, just because I know we had the Masters and everything, but the field for the Masters is so much smaller, so it just allows more guys. I think there's 48 of the top 50 players in the world currently playing in this event. We'll see if there's any more withdrawals, but at the moment, it's completely loaded. So it's going to be a great event. We're going to jump to key statistics and the course. So the event's played at the stadium course at TPC Sawgrass. As I mentioned, in 2016, there was a renovation that created multiple opportunities throughout the course. They changed quite a few holes. The biggest change happened on the 12th hole. It used to be a par 4, just over 360 yards. They've shortened it to 302 yards, so it's drivable for majority of the guys on tour. Players used to hit a long iron or fairway wood off the 12th tee and then had a wedge to get to the green. And the issue they had with this was there was such little variance in scores on this hole. So they wanted to make it a risk reward type of hole. So guys that want to drive it are going to have the opportunity, but they added some water, added some pot bunkers, and I'm going to show you guys on the next slide visually what this change looks like, so you guys can get a grasp of this hole and the other couple that they changed, just so you can make a decision for yourself how much course history you want to weight this week. Personally, I'm going to be leaning more on recent form over course history, just because I really do think recent form's a big factor. Golf is such a mental game that if guys, even if they played here well in the past, that is not going to correct a swing change or mental block they might have. So getting back to the course, so the most significant changes to the course itself also includes all 18 greens have been resurfaced with Tiff Eagle Bermuda grass as a replacement that used to be Mini Verde. The large part in this being for the grass to be in better conditions this time of the year. You guys are going to laugh at this, but northern Florida does get quite a bit cooler than the courses in South Florida. So that was a major factor in them switching the greens just to deal with those couple cool days that Florida does get throughout the winter. The par 4 6th and par 4 7th also have undergone notable facelifts. And that part of that is for the drama opportunities on those holes. Those have been shortened as well, and also improved spectator viewing for people and fans on those holes. So that's something to keep in mind. And they have also added bodies of water on both those holes plus the 12th. So overall, there's 25 water hazards on this course. Very typical of Florida courses to have this many water hazards. And then we're going to be looking at weather here in a second also, and that's looking good for the week. So at the moment, I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. And then the key stats this week, going to be really weighing heavily on greens and regulation, strokes gained approach, par 4 scoring, especially since the 12th hole, like I talked about, is drivable, bogey avoidance, birdie or better, total driving. This is a course that requires some accuracy, so I want that total driving to get the distance and the accuracy in there. And then lastly, strokes gained tee to green, as always, are one of our favorite stats that we measure. So looking visually here at hole number 12, on the left, you can see the before. You have rough, you have some native area looking areas, and then on the right, you have what it looks like currently. So they have taken out the rough, taken out those native areas. They added water to the left of the green, and then some pop bunkers. And I encourage you guys, go to the Players Championship website. They have a great overview of all the course restorations with flyby videos. There's a Jason Day 360-degree view of the course that you can watch. He breaks it down, and it really helps watching that, seeing what goes through these players' minds. So on this hole from the website, they're saying that, and Jason Day mentioned this, that it encourages a tee shot that you can curve left to right, and you can see this. If you can have your ball shape in from the right side, you're going to have a chance to roll it up there on the green and avoid that long bunker in front. But if you go too far right, you can see the two pop bunkers that you'll hit. the green slopes towards the water. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And that's why I'm weighting greens and regulations so heavily, because you want the ball strikers that even if you land your shot on the green, if it's on the left side, there's a chance it rolls off into the water. So I want guys that are good ball strikers, strategic off the tee, know their limits, and you can see the renovation that this hole has gone through, and some other ones reflect this too. It is completely different than the course we've been seeing the last few years. So moving on to weather and wind. Temps are going to be warm. They're going to be in the upper 80s, 90s. But the big thing here is winds are not going to be a factor, especially Thursday, Friday. Friday looks like a hint of wind in the afternoon, but nothing to even worry about. So I think this week we can safely place weather outside of factoring in which guys you want to favor. But if any updates do come up throughout the week, Florida's known for their thunderstorms whipping up in the afternoon, especially when it gets this warm. But if that happens, they will suspend play, so guys aren't going to be out there playing in that. So I don't think weather's going to be an issue this week. So moving on to greens and regulation. Dustin Johnson ranks first. He comes in at the highest price salary guy this week on DraftKings, $12,000. He's in great recent form. Nothing bad you can say about DJ. Next, Jordan Spieth. He ranks second in greens and regulation, and I have a hunch. This is Monday night I'm recording this, so I haven't heard anyone else release their podcasts or articles this week. But I have a suspicion that Jordan Spieth is going to go overlooked this week. You have so many guys priced around him. And even guys like Sergio coming off a win at the Masters. Something that does not correlate well here is guys coming off Masters victories have not played well here. And Jordan Spieth was a victim of that. He's missed his last two cuts here at TPC Sawgrass. So I think people will look at that. I think Spieth is having a great year. No reason, if people aren't talking about him, great GPP play, and to load up on him, pivot off some of those other guys around that 10 to 12,000 price range. And there's some soft pricing this week as well. So you can get some value and load up on a few guys in that range. And third, we have Kyle Stanley. He comes in at a really low price tag of $6,700. He's having a great year this year. I like Stanley. Sergio, I mentioned him. He ranks fourth in greens and regulation. Tony Finau, he ranks fifth at 7,400. And lastly, Lucas Glover, he ranks sixth. And he's been popping a lot lately on our models. A guy that he's a really good ball striker and shaky around the greens. So nothing new with Lucas Glover this week. Next we have strokes gained, tee to green. Once again, DJ coming in on top here. Next we have John Rahm. He is pretty softly priced in my eyes for DraftKings, coming in at $9,600. He's just incredible. His first year here on tour, he is not disappointing. And at $9,600, even if he is going to be heavily owned, I find it very difficult to be fading this guy. He's having an incredible year, and his entire game, tee to green, is unbelievable. So I'm not worried about him not playing anything in the Florida swing, having not played here at TPC Sawgrass. With the course renovations, I feel like course history is that much less of a factor. So I like Rahm this week. He's been crushing these courses he's been playing for the first time, so it's nothing new to him this week. Sergio, he ranks third in strokes gained, tee to green. Ricky, he comes in at fourth. And Justin Thomas coming in at fifth. The two spring break guys that had themselves a weekend a few weeks ago. So who knows how much golf they've been playing that's been sober lately, but they also both enjoyed the Kentucky Derby last weekend. So something to keep in mind. They have not been practicing at least serious practice that they typically put in. So just keep that in mind with both of those guys. And once again, Kyle Stanley, he ranks sixth in strokes gained tee to green. So a guy that I really like this week. And lastly, total driving. Sergio comes in first here, followed up by Ricky Fowler second. Kyle Stanley, once again, he ranks third. Bubba, take what you want with him. I'm going to be fading him. I just think his game is completely off this year. Russell Henley, he's been a guy coming up on the tour this year that has played great. He ranks fifth. He is 8,200 on DraftKings. And then lastly, Hideki Matsuyama, probably one of my favorite GPP plays, especially in that price range. 9,700. He's had a really good year, and I think his game aligns really well at TPC Sawgrass, and he's had great history. So now let's look at our GPP plays of the week. I don't think it's of any surprise that Kyle Stanley makes this list. Just to give a repeat, he ranks sixth in strokes gained tee to green, ninth in strokes gained approach, third in greens and regulation, and 12th in par 4 scoring. So he is really ranking up there. And at his price, it is just an unbelievable steal, I would say. And I'm curious where his ownership comes in, but he isn't a guy that's typically that heavily owned. So I think he'll garner some ownership this week, but it's not going to take much to get over the field on him. And also, he finished 8th at Shell Houston Open, 17th at Arnold Palmer, and 27th at Valspar. So he's been having a great year. Next, we have DA Points. He ranks 11th in strokes gained approach, 9th in greens and regulation, and 49th strokes gained tee to green. He won Puerto Rico earlier this year, and he's been playing well lately. Finished 23rd at Shell Houston Open and 12th last week at Wells Fargo. So I think his recent form is very good and where it has to be. And yeah, I think he's another great GPP play this week. And then lastly here, we have Patrick Cantlay. He ranks 11th in par 4 scoring, 15th in birdie or better percentage, 23rd in strokes gained tee to green, and then 51st in strokes gained approach and 49th greens and regulation. So he is checking all the boxes we like. He just finished third at RBC and finished second at Valspar. So I think Cantlay, I think he'll also carry a little bit of ownership this week, but I think he's a great play, and at his price, it's a great option for GPPs this week. And then a few more GPP plays. We have Pat Perez. This is a guy that he switched to PXG equipment this year, and the biggest difference in his game has been his putter. He was number 1 last week at Wells Fargo for strokes gained putting. For this year, he ranks 18th in birdie or better percentage, 32nd in par 4 scoring, and 59th in strokes gained tee to green. And he's played TPC well. He finished 17th last year. And I think with his recent form, finishing runner-up last week at Wells Fargo, and he's really had a solid year. And I think a lot of that has to do with his putting, and whether it's the time he's been putting in or simply the fact he changed putters, I think he's a great GPP play this week. And with the deeper field, guys like him are going to go under the radar. So Next, we have Brooks Koepka. He's coming in with good recent form. He's finished ninth at WGC and 11th at the Masters, and also had a strong finish at Valero. So his last three events, he's really been coming on strong. I know he broke up with his girlfriend after the Honda Classic, so it seems like he's got his game together, whether it's been practicing more, living the single life, who knows? But whatever he's been doing lately, it's been working. So I want to ride the train here with Brooks Koepka. And lastly, Ryan Moore. He's got a nice price on DraftKings. He's coming in at 16th in strokes gained approach, 32nd par 4 scoring, and 42nd in birdie or better percentage. He finished 9th at the Masters and 18th at Valero in his last two starts. So I think his game is rounding into form nicely, and he's another guy that is not going to have high ownership. Now, looking at the punts of the week. First, Sung Kang, 7,400. His price tag probably seems high to some of you guys, but just let me read off his stats here. So he is ranked 22nd in par 4 scoring, 32nd in birdie or better percentage, and then ranks top 50 in strokes gained, tee to green, and approach. He finished second at Shell Houston Open, 11th at RBC Heritage, and 6th at Valero Texas Open. So his game is strong right now. His stats back it up. And it's a guy that is not going to garner much ownership. And at 7,400, people will probably look at him like, why is this guy priced above 7,000? But for good reason. He's having a great season. Next, we have Ross Fisher. This is a guy that plays events on the Euro Tour, so some of you guys might not be as familiar with him. He has played really well, especially in his last two Euro events. He's finished top 10 in both of those. He finished third at WGC Mexico, fifth at WGC Austin, and then 41st at the Masters. So he's played with some deeper fields outside of the Euro Tour. I think he has a game to contend here, and at 6,600, that's a great price for him and to take a punt. And then lastly, we have Bernd Wiesberger. We were on this guy a couple times this year, and especially if you play Euro. He's a stud on the Euro Tour. He has not missed a cut in his last 15 events on the game log. I didn't even bother going beyond that, but he has made every single cut for the game log I can see. He won the Shenzhen 2 weeks ago in China. He finished fourth in the China Open the week after, or preceding that. And then he's made cuts at both WGC events, just like Ross Fisher, and then had top 50 finishes at Shell Houston and the Masters. So I think this is a guy that he has won Euro Tour events, and I think it's a matter of time before he gets his hands on a PGA Tour event as a champion as well. So those are our 3 punts of the week. As always,